Dan Dickau here for Gonzaga Nation SI on the Gonzaga Nation Media Network. Well, the first four began last night. Texas A&M Corpus Christi knocked off Southeastern Missouri State, and Mississippi State had a chance in the final seconds to beat Pitt to advance, but a missed open three-pointer allows Pitt to advance in that game. Tonight, there are two more playing games. Texas Southern, with a 14-20 record on the season, takes on Fairleigh Dickinson. And then in the 11-11 game in Gonzaga's West Region bracket, Arizona State under Bobby Hurley, a bunch of transfers there, takes on Nevada, coached by Steve Alford, one of only a few coaches in the history of college basketball that take 5 teams to the NCAA tournament. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to take a quick look at the West bracket, Gonzaga's region, look at a little bit of the teams and give you a few things to think about as the games get going. So in that West region bracket, at the 1 seed, Kansas, unbelievably talented team. Bill Self did not coach in the Big 12 championship tournament as he was hospitalized with an illness. Some people are saying it might have been heart attack symptoms. I haven't seen the full report. Sounds like he's going to be good to go. He will coach in the NCAA tournament. Glad to hear that he's healthy and things will be fine there. But in Des Moines, Iowa, they will be taking on Howard, who won their conference tournament. Kansas, very talented. Jalen Wilson, Big 12 Player of the Year. Grady Dick is a really good point guard. DeJuan Harris Jr., Grady Dick's a great shooter. DeJuan Harris Jr. Is a tremendous point guard who gets others involved. Doesn't score it a lot, but when he scores 6 points or more, they're 17-1 on the season. So that's something to keep an eye on as Kansas advances. I think they'll easily take care of Howard, but as they advance. In that 8-9 matchup, Arkansas takes on Illinois. Illinois is a unique team. They had some guys leave, or at least one high-level recruit, Sky Clark, left early in the season. He is now in the transfer portal for sure, but a talented team. Coleman Hawkins is the first player that comes to mind when you think of Illinois. I'm not sold on the Big Ten. I haven't been in a number of years. They've gotten a number of teams in the tournament again this year, but outside of Purdue, I'm not sure who's going to make a fairly deep run out of the Big Ten. Indiana's a possibility, but Illinois takes on Arkansas. I've got Arkansas winning that game. As you'd remember, Arkansas knocked Gonzaga out of the Sweet 16 a year ago. So who knows? Maybe they get a chance to match up down the road. So that should be fun. That should be interesting. But Arkansas has been a little bit up and down throughout the course of the year. They're very talented. Eric Musselman as active in the transfer portal to get guys that can be impact players. He's also unbelievably active in recruiting high-level high school players. So he's got a nice blend, a nice mix of high-level young guys as well as transfer portal guys that just are very talented but need a new home, a new setting. Nick Smith, since he's been back from injury, has shown on a number of occasions why he's been talked about as maybe a top 5 pick. Point guard who's really talented. And then Anthony Black, who a lot of Gonzaga fans know well because he was considering going to Gonzaga strongly, has had a nice freshman year as well. In the 5-12 game, St. Mary's, who you all know out of the WCC well, takes on VCU, the A10 champs. Not as locked in defensively as they have been in years past is VCU because of the Shaka Smart Havoc defense days, but they're still a really good basketball team. Knocked off Dayton in the A10 final, but I've got St. Mary's advancing. St. Mary's struggled against Gonzaga in the last 2 games, the one at Gonzaga in Spokane, and then the Orleans Resort and Casino Arena for the WCC tournament title game. They struggled, but I think this is a team that's poised to break through and get to a Sweet 16. And as we go through this bracket, I'll break it down a little bit more, but I've got St. Mary's advancing there to face the winner of the 4-13 game, which is a unique one. This is a game that's getting a lot of national attention. The 13 seed Iona is coached by Rick Pitino. And there's a lot of rumors about him possibly taking the opening at St. John's. He's someone who's very well versed in high level college basketball. He's coached at Kentucky, coached at Louisville, coached in the NBA for some time with the Celtics, was an assistant with the Knicks, broke onto the scene with Providence in the Big East. So, after everything shook out in Louisville, he was let go, went to Europe, did a little coaching there. Now he's back. He's built Iona. They've gotten to the tournament the last 3 years, I believe. Unbelievable job there. But he's a big-time coach, and I would imagine at the age of 70, he wants one more crack at a big-time program, and St. John's could be that big-time program. Iona is maybe 45 minutes to an hour outside of the city of New York, so it wouldn't be a huge adjustment for him as far as where to move. So that will be something to keep an eye on. They take on UConn under Coach Dan Hurley. They are one of the most balanced teams in the country. A lot of analysts had them as a Final Four type of team earlier in this season. They hit a little bit of a slide. They finished the season at 25-8, but they are very talented. Adam Sanogo is very good. They play hard-nosed defense. They're tough. And like I said, they're very balanced. So I've got UConn advancing in that one, but I don't think it's going to be easy. The bottom of the bracket, 6 seed TCU, head coach Jamie Dixon, after leaving Pitt, he's done a really nice job in the Big 12, in probably the toughest conference in the country, of getting TCU to be relevant again. They were 21-12 this year, but that doesn't show the whole story, because they hit a slide when guard Mike Miles Jr. got hurt. And if you haven't seen him play, unbelievably talented, very good player. He can score it. He can find others. He can defend. So when he was out, they struggled, but he's back. He's healthy. He looks good. And they take on the winner of Arizona State, Nevada in the 11-seeded play-in game. So we'll see who they play, but I think it will be Nevada. The 3-14 game, the game that you're all looking forward to, you want to know about. It's Gonzaga and it's Grand Canyon. I'll break this one down a little bit more in a separate pod later. But some unique storylines is head coach Bryce Drew of Grand Canyon is terrific friends with Gonzaga assistant coach Roger Powell Jr. Roger Powell Jr. was on Bryce Drew's staff at Valparaiso as well as at Vanderbilt. So these two programs know each other extremely well. I've got Gonzaga advancing in that one. The bottom of the bracket, we've got 7 seed Northwestern against Boise State. Northwestern, a really nice run in the Big Ten this year, 21-11. Again, I'm not sold on the Big Ten. I haven't been in quite some time, but you got to give Northwestern a lot of credit because they had never made an NCAA tournament. One of the only, I believe, the last Power 5 school to make an NCAA tournament. They won a game a few years back in the tournament in Boise before facing Gonzaga, where that game went down to the wire in the round of 32. Chris Collins has got those guys back for a second time in the NCAA tournament. They're built on the defensive end. Top 10 analytically defense in the country. So they are very, very good, led by Boo Buie. Try that name again. Boo Buie, really good player, scores at about 17 a game. But they take on Boise State out of the Mountain West. Head coach Leon Rice, former Gonzaga assistant. But Boise State, one of the best defensive teams in the country as well. They don't let you score at ease. Teams only average 64 points a game on them. So I expect that to be a knockdown, drag-out, low-scoring game. But I think the offense of Tyson Degenhart, Max Rice have the ability to be the difference there, as well as Max Shaver, who's been banged up, injured throughout the year. He's looking healthy now. So I've got Boise State advancing in that one, who will take on the winner of 2 seed UCLA and UNC Asheville, the 15 seed. This is a really unique matchup because UNC Asheville wants to play fast. They want to play up and down. They've got a terrific big in Drew Pember, who's 6'11", that can score all over the floor. He can post it up. He can pick and pop. He can shoot it from deep. He can handle it enough to make you concerned about your coverages. Overall, I think he's a really good player. But I've got UCLA prevailing in this one. It's going to be interesting to see how they play moving on after this one, because they have lost Jalen Clark, a terrific defender throughout the course of throughout the rest of the season with an Achilles injury. So we'll go right back down the bracket, starting at the top, and I'll share my predictions. Kansas against Arkansas. I've got Arkansas moving on in this one. I think Eric Musselman makes some unbelievable adjustments in quick turnaround games. That's where I think a lot of former NBA players and NBA coaches can have an advantage in this situation, because many times, because they're so used to games coming fast and furious, they don't bog down and overload their players with things. They'll find a few key topics that they really want to hammer in and emphasize to their team, stick with it, and get them prepared for those attributes that they need to be great at. So I've got Arkansas moving on. In St. Mary's, UConn, I have got St. Mary's knocking off the Big East power. I really like this team. I like how they're built. I think they've got a good enough big in Mitchell Saxon to play physical and impact the game there. Kyle Bowen is physical. Alex Dukas kind of blends in and does a little bit of everything. And then Aiden Mahaney, I think on the big stage, the freshman's ready to go. But Logan Johnson has been on a tear towards the end of the season, and I expect him to come out with a passion and a fury to finish his career off and lead St. Mary's to a Sweet 16. TCU versus Gonzaga is who I have in that round of 32 game. I've got Gonzaga moving on in that one. And at the bottom, Boise State, UCLA. That's going to be another defensive battle. We talked about how good Boise State is defensively. Well, if you're not a good defender, you're not going to play for Mick Cronin. And this is going to be, I think it's going to be a closer game than a lot of people predict and expect, because most people know how good UCLA is. You know, they were talked about as a possible 1 seed before losing to Arizona in the Pac-12 tournament title game on essentially a last possession play. But I've got UCLA advancing there. Arkansas, St. Mary's. This is where the run, unfortunately for me, I think ends for St. Mary's. I think Arkansas is just too talented, too good, too big, too physical, too athletic, and we'll move on there. Gonzaga, UCLA. Last time these teams matched up was an epic game in the 2021 NCAA Final Four, where Jalen Suggs hit that half-court shot to advance to the title game against Baylor. I've got Gonzaga once again prevailing over UCLA. So this will create a regional final where it's a rematch of last year's Sweet 16, Arkansas versus Gonzaga. I know this is a Gonzaga-based podcast. I've been on a couple national level shows, and I've said Gonzaga's going to a Final Four. This is where they've got the ability to be a little bit on the redemption tour, where they can be the team that redeems the team that lost a season ago. So I've got Gonzaga knocking off Arkansas to go to the Final Four. Two completely different teams based on personnel from a season ago. Obviously, Gonzaga still has Strother and Timmy, but no Chet Holmgren, no Andrew Nembhard. So really, they are completely different teams for both Gonzaga and Arkansas. Check us out later, where we will break down the bracket in the three other regions a little bit more later today. Not quite as in depth as the West region bracket, where everybody's excited and interested in what Gonzaga's path to the Final Four may look like. But check us out throughout the week, Gonzaga Nation SI, with mini podcasts. Adam Morrison and I will be recording later today. I'll have head coach of Grand Canyon, Bryce Drew, on later today as well. And then don't forget to check out our website, Fan Nation's Gonzaga site, for lots of different coverage from our tremendous journalists, Henry Kruger and Cole Forsman. So for Gonzaga Nation SI, I'm Dan Dickau.